Continuing with our coverage on BQ Prime, thanks for tuning into Trade Talk. I'm Neeraj Shah with Muralidhar Swaminathan, and our guest joining us on this conversation today is Deven Choksey of KRChoksey, or rather, well, Deven now has multiple hats, as I learned. Deven, great having you. Thanks so much for joining in. Can we start off by trying to understand how are you thinking about the election verdict and the reaction that the equity markets have shown?
Yeah, Neeraj, I think good morning. Well, I think the first and foremost, this entire elections, all elections for that matter, are being fought on the basis of the freebies offered by one and everybody. And whoever ends up offering maximum freebies, I think that's where probably they end up cornering more votes. And that's something I think which is basically quite disturbing, and it's continuing to be disturbing. Because on one side, the freebies do end up reaching in the hands of people, if at all, I think they are through direct benefit transfer. But if they are not, then probably I think these freebies are lost, and I think a loss to the exchequer. That is an unfortunate part of it. Now, before we go into that part of it, I think the market definitely is mindful of this entire situation. They do believe that in democracy, the freebies are required to be given, and that's where probably some amount of consumption is also attributed to. So to a certain extent, I think the economy progresses because of the freebies, consumption takes place. But on the other side, the market is equally mindful about the distorted balance sheets of the state. When you keep on offering freebies and it results into higher amount of fiscal indiscipline, which could possibly lead to, I think, a similar situation what we have recently experienced in the global economy, wherein after the pandemic, they ended up distributing freebies and they have resultant inflation and all the kind of ugly things which have started happening in their economy. So market is extremely concerned about, I think, this particular pattern. And that's where I think one is seeing the nervousness also to a certain extent, I think in the market, at least reluctance in participation, if not in the fall in the value at this point of time.
Right. Very important insight that you've given, Deven. The other question that I always have in mind, in fact, especially considering today's market response, is that do you think that the markets are kind of complacent, or are they confident that BJP still has time, BJP will learn its lessons and try to stage a comeback and put up, try to match the fight that the opposition would put up?
Murali, I think your question is definitely, I think, important whether the BJP will correct their strategies. But I am wondering whether I will give any marks to BJP if they start distributing freebies. See, in Karnataka election, I think if you count whatever the freebies that they have talked about in form of cash or in form of free distribution of electricity, I think they're talking about a figure of 62,000 crores.
Yes.
Now, this is not the kind of balance sheet that the state would have. And without that balance sheet, if the state is going to distribute this kind of money, I think this is going to create, I think, major amount of chaos. If tomorrow BJP starts giving such kind of promises and then in turn, I think, ask for the position in the center, I'm sure, I think, most of us, I think, would not be agreeing to it. And I think will comes down to BJP for this kind of conduct that they would do. So it's a really catchy situation at this point of time, wherein I think on one side, there is a demand for freebies. On the other side, I think the demand for maintaining the fiscal deficit. I think we'll have to seriously think about how exactly the next elections should be fought. If there is no discipline set as far as I think distribution of freebies, which could be possibly linked to the fiscal deficit of the state per se, if that discipline is not set, and if election commission and other machineries do not act in time, I'm quite sure that the 2024 election would be even bigger fought on a lot of freebies, I think, that these parties are wanting to win the elections.
Can this happen?
Yeah.
Can the EC do something like this?
No. See, that's a case which has always been questioned over the last 2-3 years.
No, it's important. But I'm just wondering whether the EC has the
but then the state, see, then it becomes a legislature versus EC kind of a situation. So they will, the political system will try and find ways of, beating, even if the EC comes up. And so it's a question of, let's say that you promise what you can deliver kind of an approach. Fiscal deficit is fiscal deficit at the end of the day, and elections are won on the basis of promises, right? So my next question, taking off from there, Deven Bhai, is MP, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. Now competitive populism will come up. Madhya Pradesh will be forced to, MP will be forced to go for freebies, in spite of all the good work that is being portrayed, that's being done. Still on the ground, at the grassroots level, it's not just about man ki baat, it's also about, fulfilling stomach that has been demonstrated in Karnataka. Do you think that apart from freebies, there will be grassroots issues which need to be addressed by whichever party that is there?
Only I think Man Ki Baat ki jagah pe Dhan Ki Baat. I think that is what is happening right now.
Yeah.
And that is what is, I think, troublesome for one and everybody. At least in the near future, I think, going back to your first earlier question, I think it is in the near future, I don't see, I think, anything would change as far as, I think, the confidence of the investor is concerned, confidence of the market participants concerned, and even for the petrol corporate is concerned. They will continue to put money into the economy because the government has fired the bullet by way of putting money into the system, and they are executing it various projects. So from that perspective, at least in the near term, things won't change. But yes, I think if something has to happen, like upside down situation has to happen in 2024, or for that matter, any other states, I think, which you just now named, I guess I think that could possibly cause a serious amount of confidence crisis into the economy as well as into the minds of all the participants. Today, India is being looked at as a country where they are finding the solutions in the global platform. Now, tomorrow, if I think this discipline system is lost due to whatever the political unwillingness is, I guess I think this is going to create a serious problem, which you and me do not want to even spell out at this point of time. Neither you want to speculate on this particular subject, at least at this point of time.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's we'll say, okay, it's set for some other day, but the way Congress worked at the ground, apart from the freebies that were promised, they strategized. They brought back strategies which BJP would have done otherwise. These guys got everybody together, closed ranks, at least when it came to fighting elections. Now, a similar strategy can be adopted all India. Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra, Telangana, 5 states are a no-no for BJP, except the few MP seats in Karnataka. Now, if you go further up north, you will find that the map and the color of the map is changing. So there is a possibility of a tough, very tough fight that the opposition will put up. What's your thought?
Again, see, if these states, if BJP has not fulfilled some of the promises, I think, on the ground, and that is where I think this anger is, and that is why the voters have voted against them. If that is true, then in such case, I think the next thing would turn around and probably people will ask the new government to fulfill those promises and execute, I think, whatever the promises that they have made. If they cannot make it, again, next 5 years after, I think the situation will turn the same way in which I think it has turned against BJP. Next year, it could be in favor of BJP. So this kind of process is continuing in the economy, in the global, in our India's political system, as well as state, as well as, I think, in center. So it is important that I think this particular situation will overcome only when I think the people remain mindful that those unachieved targets or the execution of promises, whichever has been given by the parties earlier, if they are not done, I think they should assert the parties based on those particular promises that they gave, not on the basis of, I think, changing the government, because changing the governments, not solving the problem for the country as a whole. And that is where investor and all the market participants also understand this very clearly. We need to give the time to the existing government to clean up the system, which probably was in mess in last many years and decades. I think that part, I think, should go and get communicated to the last mile in the voting system. If that happens, then possibly I think this kind of frequent changes of government in state from one government to another party's government, and I think thereafter not achieving results. Might as well people start concentrating on asserting the governments for the results that they have promised. Otherwise, I think for the task that they promise, on that I think results should be asserted.
Right. Yeah. So, Neeraj, I think you keep saying the fundamentals are quite strong as of now. To what extent can fundamentals cushion the shock, if at all there is a shock? Do you think that the fundamentals are strong enough and the markets could, in some manner, decouple from politics?
Deven, a question for you. Do you think the markets can decouple from politics per se?
Well, not entirely, Neeraj and Murli. I guess I think the situation is not as simple as it sounds. Because I think the political willingness should be there as far as taking the corrective course in the economy. If you keep on distributing free money, which we have seen in one or the other states, I think continuously, I don't think that I think we are solving the problem. On the contrary, we are entering into some bigger problems which will be unsolvable at some point of time in future. Remember one thing, that what has exactly happened in this period, when the entire turmoil started after the pandemic, and I think in subsequent period when they started tightening the global economy, most of the nations, I think, who did not take corrective measures, they have ended up seeing their currency depreciating by 25-30%. India has been relatively lucky because I think India took some corrective measures much before this entire turmoil started. I mean, during the pandemic also India took corrective measures, and thereafter also India is continuously taking corrective measures. So currently our currency remains, I think, relatively more stable and stronger compared to others, and that is one of the reasons for which I think people have more confidence in India. Now, if you continue to distribute freebies and if the fiscal discipline goes for toss, and in such situation, I think the people will not be kind enough in pouring money into the country, which they are currently doing it. And in that case, I think we asking for decoupling the politics and the economy, I don't think that I think it's so easy, because the willingness to, I think, survive is strong, definitely is required. Whoever the party is, I believe that at the cost of fiscal discipline, if you end up taking certain measures to, I think, appease voters to give you votes, nobody will pardon you. On the contrary, you will end up yourself in a mess at some point of time if you did that.
We've seen that happening in some other states in the north. Now we see that happening in Karnataka. Let's see if the templates gets extended. Hopefully not. But pertinent points raised by Deven Choksey. For now, the markets seem calm. Let's wait and watch if it stays that way. Deven, thanks so much for taking the time out and being with us today.
Thank you, Neeraj. Thank you, Maulik. Thank you so much.
And viewers, thanks for tuning in to this conversation.